"You're so selfish, Marcus." That's what my cousin said. I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I just sat in my car in that parking lot, phone against my ear, and let him finish. He told me grandma's roof was leaking. He told me I had money sitting in accounts doing nothing. He told me the whole family had noticed the BMW and nobody was impressed. When he hung up, I sat there for a long time. I had $3.1 million. My family had no idea. Not because I was hiding it to be cruel. Because I had watched what happened every single time someone in our family found out another person had more than them. The whispers, the distance, the slow conversion of a person into a resource. And I had spent 20 years making sure it would never happen to me. This is that story. How my family treated me at $0, at 32,000, at 100,000, at a million, at 3, at 8. Every level, every ask, every silence, every person who disappeared, and everyone who stayed. Because here is the thing nobody tells you about building wealth inside a family that doesn't have any. The money was never the problem. It was the mirror. Level 1, zero income to about 28,000 a year. At this level, you are safe, not because life is good, but because you have nothing worth taking. I was 19, working a warehouse job nights and weekends, taking 2 community college classes during the day. I had $847 in a savings account, and I genuinely thought I was ahead. My family was all inside the same struggle. My mother worked 2 jobs, a hospital reception desk during the day and a call center on weekends. My uncle ran a small landscaping business that owed more than it made most years. My grandmother's house needed something every few years: gutters, a water heater, roof patches, a broken furnace in February, and the family passed a hat. $50 here, $100 there. Everyone gave what they could. Nobody kept score. Nobody even remembered the amounts a year later. That was the thing about being at zero together. There was no ledger. No one was tracking who gave what, because none of it was enough to matter. It was survival money passed between people who all needed it, and it moved without resentment because there was no gap to resent. When I was 21 and my uncle's truck broke down, he called and said, "Hey, you got anything to spare?" I gave him $40. He thanked me. We hung up. That was it. No resentment, no expectations, no math. This is the only period of your life when money and family are completely uncomplicated. Remember that feeling, because it ends at the next level. Level 2, 28,000 to 65,000 a year. By 25, I was making 32,000 as an inventory coordinator at a logistics company. I had moved out of my mother's house, shared a 2-bedroom apartment with a coworker, and started a Roth IRA with $50 a month because a guy in my department said I should. I didn't fully understand what it was. I just did it. At this salary, you are not wealthy by any measure. You are just slightly ahead of the people around you who didn't leave home, who had kids early, who didn't get the promotion, who are still working the same job they took at 22. That gap, however small it seems to you, is already enough to change how your family sees you. The first real ask came from my aunt. She came to it soft, apologetic. She was $300 short for a bridesmaid dress and a cousin's wedding was 6 weeks out. She'd been carrying it for weeks before she finally said something. "I hate to ask, Marcus, but you're doing so well." I was not doing so well. I had $3,100 in savings and a Roth IRA with maybe $400 in it. But compared to where she was, I looked like someone who could afford $300. I gave her the money. She paid it back over 4 months, every payment in a small envelope with a handwritten note. She was careful. She was grateful. She was embarrassed. And she never asked again. At this level, the asks are still small. People still feel shame about asking. They still pay back what they borrow. That changes, slowly, and then all at once. Level 3, 65,000 to about 200,000 a year. At 29, I took a supply chain role at a mid-sized manufacturer that paid 78,000. I kept my lifestyle almost identical to what it was at 32. Same apartment for another 2 years, same car. The difference went straight into index funds every single month automatically before I could decide to spend it. I didn't talk about money. I had learned that early, but people notice things you never say out loud. A better apartment when I finally moved, clothes that aren't worn at the cuffs. The way you stop checking prices before you order. The way you don't cancel plans because of cost. My family started calling me the one who made it. I hadn't made anything yet. But perception doesn't wait for reality. The asks got bigger and they came faster. My uncle needed a new commercial mower for the landscaping business, $4,000, or he'd lose a contract. My cousin needed first and last month's rent, $1,200, or lose the apartment. My mother needed a laptop for the second job she had just started. I helped where I could. I said no where I couldn't. And that was when I learned for the first time what it actually costs to say no inside a family that has collectively decided you can afford to say yes. The cousin I said no to, the one who needed the rent, stopped calling. Not with a fight. Not with any kind of confrontation. Just gone. A birthday that passed without a text. A number I would dial that rang and rang. Silence as its own kind of verdict. I got promoted at 31. I negotiated hard. My salary crossed $110,000. My net worth crossed $100,000 the same year. I told no one. Level 4. $200,000 to $750,000 in net worth. And here I want to pause and name something. Up until now, we've been measuring in salary what I was earning. From this point forward, what matters more is net worth, the actual number on my balance sheet. What I own minus what I owe. Because that's what quietly starts changing everything. At 33, I changed roles again. A director position at a logistics software company, base salary at $130,000. With the portfolio behind me now and 2 years of serious saving at the higher rate, my net worth crossed $300,000. And something shifted in the family dynamic that I didn't have a word for yet. The requests stopped being requests. They became assumptions. "You can cover this one, right?" said before I'd even looked at the check at a family dinner. "Since you're doing so well, maybe you could," before I'd heard what the ask even was. My showing up to any gathering started to feel like being the on-call solution to whatever financial problem had surfaced that week. A cousin's car repair bill, an aunt's medical out-of-pocket gap, my sister's rent when her landlord raised it $400 with 30 days' notice. I helped where I could. I set a number in my head, a private ceiling on what I was willing to give to family per year. And when I hit it, I quietly stopped answering the financial questions. No announcement, no explanation, just silence of my own. My grandmother pulled me aside at Easter that year. She had never asked me for anything, not once, not even when I could have easily helped. "They don't mean harm," she said quietly. "They just don't know what else to do with someone who got out." She was the only person in my family who had never once asked me for a cent, and she was the only one who saw me clearly. Level 5. $750,000 to $2 million in net worth. At 36, after 3 years at the director role and compounding returns on a portfolio I'd been building since I was 25, my net worth crossed $1 million. I drove home that evening, made dinner, watched something on television. It felt like every other Tuesday. There was no moment, no rush, just a number that crossed a threshold while I wasn't looking. But something had quietly changed inside me, and I didn't understand it clearly until months later. I had stopped being afraid of a single bad month. I had crossed a point where one emergency, a medical bill, a car, a job loss, couldn't undo years of work. That security is invisible from the outside. But it changes the way you carry yourself in every room. You slow down. You stop reacting. You become very difficult to panic. The family calls kept coming. A cousin with a business idea that needed early money. My aunt whose daughter needed $2,000 in dental work that insurance rejected outright. My uncle who had finally closed the landscaping business after a slow few years, asking me carefully over the phone if I would co-sign a loan so he could start something new. I said no to the loan. He didn't speak to me for 8 months. When he came back, he didn't bring it up. Just started calling again. I answered. Because that's what you do. I had learned by then that with family and money, no is never just no. Silence is never just silence. And resentment, once it settles in, runs on a very long fuse. And then at 40, something happened that I still think about. Something that cost me nothing financially, but nearly everything else. Level 6. $2 million to $5 million in net worth. At 37, I left the director role and joined a smaller logistics software startup as head of operations. The salary was actually lower, but they offered equity, a meaningful stake, with a 4-year vest. 3 years in, a larger company made an offer. The acquisition closed. My equity paid out. My net worth, After the transaction and taxes, sat at $3.1 million. That's when I bought the BMW 3 years old. 61,000 miles. Silver. I didn't tell anyone. I just drove it. My cousin saw it at my mother's house on a Sunday afternoon. 2 days later, he called. "You're so selfish, Marcus. You sit on your money while Grandma's roof is falling apart." I didn't say a word. I sat in that car and let him finish. 3 days later, I called a contractor, got 3 quotes, picked the one in the middle. The roof cost $6,200. I paid the invoice directly, called my grandmother, told her it was handled, and asked her not to make it into anything. She cried. She told me she had been watching that roof since October, afraid of what the first hard freeze would do to the ceiling. My cousin found out I'd paid it. He didn't call to thank me. He called my mother to say I should have done it months ago. And that was the moment I understood the final rule of family and wealth. The more you give, the faster it becomes what's owed. You don't stay generous in their eyes, you become infrastructure. And infrastructure doesn't get thanked, it just gets used. Level 7. 5 million to 8 million in net worth. After the acquisition, I took a quieter role as an independent consultant. The pace was slower. I had time to think. I put the payout into a diversified portfolio, bought a small rental property, and stopped chasing the next promotion. Over the next 4 years, the investments compounded steadily. The rental generated consistent income. I made 2 small angel investments in early-stage companies. One of them returned well. By 44, my net worth had crossed $8 million. I hired a fee-only financial advisor, set up a revocable trust, and I set up one more thing, a family fund. Not a loan pool, not a favor. An automated account that distributes a fixed amount to a small group of close family members every single month. No applications, no conversations, no strings, no reporting. Just a deposit that lands quietly, the way a utility bill works. My grandmother gets one, so does my mother, a few cousins, my aunt. It freed me from 90% of the calls, not because I bought people off, because I built a system that removed the friction, the humiliation of asking, and all the scorekeeping that had built up over 20 years. My cousin who called about the BMW, we're not close now. Maybe we never were. Money didn't break that relationship. It just removed the thing that was keeping it together. The people who loved me before the numbers changed, they're still here. Every single one of them. The ones who left were never really staying. Here is the last thing I will tell you. Money doesn't create the problem. It ends the disguise. Your family is already exactly who they are. Every relationship is already exactly what it is. You just can't see all of it clearly yet. The money just turns on the lights. If you are building quietly, if you are the person in your family who started asking different questions, saving differently, thinking longer, this is coming for you. Not maybe. Eventually. Set your limits before the money makes them necessary. Protect what is actually real. And if this one landed, subscribe. I come back every week with another level. I'll see you there.